Hello, Tony. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
And how are you doing this fabulous day? I've been looking forward to talking to you for a very long time.
Well, good. I'm glad we finally got to connect. I'm doing well. We were talking before. We both we're morning people, I think, and so we're on top of the day. I did my strength training. You got your run in, and I always feel like if we pay our health first in the morning, that the day kind of goes a little bit more smoothly.
Absolutely. And also, if you have a positive attitude, then it makes things even better.
Well, that's just, I'm lucky that that's just part of my DNA, I think.
Right.
Although there were
Same here.
times where I lost it, it got muted, but that's part of what the Happy Healthy Caregiver is all about is like, how do we spark and how do we ignite that pieces of it? Well, I've been looking forward to talking to you too, because there's no story in caregiving that I've come across that is like your story. And we all have unique stories, but this one I think will kind of shock people. And so let's do it. Let's shock people.
Okay.
First we kick off though, Tony. I do a little bit of a kickoff on the podcast with the words of inspiration.
All
You know,
right.
again, setting it out with a positive note. And I made this for my sister when we transitioned care for my mom. And people can make one for themselves. I've got the download available on Happy Healthy Caregiver. I've got inserts. So when I used to go visit my sister, I would stuff it full of more
Oh,
stuff
okay.
so she could pull one out every day. So here's
That's
what you're saying.
great.
Thank you. Too many people overvalue what they are not and undervalue what they are. What do you think about
Well,
that?
it's very interesting because I listen to a meditation while I run. You know, some meditations you have to be in this special trance and all that, but I have one that you can do anytime. And the one I was listening to today was I am complete and I have everything that I need. And I just keep
Uh,
repeating that. And another one that I like to listen to is that I'm doing the best that I can. Those are the two that are my favorite. And I can see what you're
yes.
saying is you have what you have and it's the best that you have and take that, move
Yeah,
forward.
what we focus on grows. So if we're focusing on all that yucky stuff, that's what that's what's going to grow. I love that you have these meditations. Is this something that's accessible to other caregivers that they could use?
Yes, yes, it is. And what I'll do is I'll send you the link to
Perfect.
it, and then you can put it in your show
I'll put
notes.
it in the show notes. I love
Yes,
that. Okay,
yes.
I'll make a note so that we can get that from you. Well, very cool, Tony. Well, let's dive into your caregiving story. Give us kind of like a synopsis of what it was like for you. Your partner, Catherine, developed early onset Alzheimer's diagnosis, and you had a life before that diagnosis, and you've had a life since that. And you've had some health things on your own. So give us a little bit of a ground us where we were, and how we got here.
Okay, so I'm going to take you back to 2013, which is 10 years ago when I first noticed that there was a problem with Catherine. She was working, she had a nice job. However, I could not convince her that there was a problem.
Mm.
Uh, Fortunately or unfortunately, which way other way you want to look at it, her employment started noticing the problem also. So when I was able to bring that to her attention and that she might lose her job, then I was able to get her to go see a doctor, neurologist, and figure out exactly what was going on. Luckily for her, she had a government job. So when the diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's was established, she was able to retire under disability with the government. So that helped out a whole lot. So 2014 is when she retired. Around the same time, surprisingly enough, I was a commercial pilot with United Parcel Service, and I have a routine physical, and I found out that I had a leaky aortic valve,
Mm.
and I needed to get that replaced. So, in June, just 9 years ago, I had open heart surgery and I had my leaky aortic valve replaced with a mechanical valve. So here we are. She's retired. We know that she has early onset. I have no idea what I'm up against, what we're facing. I got my valve replaced. I'm 27 years at UPS. I got a good career going. I could, still do about 5 or 6 more years there. But I decided that I wanted to take this diagnosis as a team effort. I wanted to be around, I wanted to see the changes, and I wanted to be able to respond to them right away. So what we both did was she was already retired, I retired. We were endurance athletes at the time. We were both running marathons and we had some trips scheduled. And so we sold our home, packed everything up, and we went on the road and we became nomads, running marathons and half marathons all over the world. For the past 8 years, we have visited 82 different countries and have run at least a half marathon in 35 of them. It's been a fabulous journey, even though during her decline, there was certain things that she was not able to do from time to time. And as we progressed, but at the same time, we were together all the time. We were able to find joy in everything that we were able to accomplish. And during that period of time, I was also writing to a blog, and I decided to take all those writings and I made a book out of our trips. And so that's
An
where we are.
adventure, an
Yes,
elevated adventure,
yes,
um,
absolutely.
touring all those countries and caring for someone as their primary caregiver. I know there's people listening, Tony, that are like, what in the world? Like, what did your support team, what did your healthcare, your family, your extended family, what kind of response did you get when you said, hey, this is our plan?
Well, we had two different responses. One was from her family side was we want her around, because they thought that it was only going to be a matter of years, months or years. And
Mm.
from my family standpoint, it was, well, he was a commercial pilot. I knew him traveling all over the world. So yeah, I could see him, backing up and hitting the road. They knew that we both loved to travel, that we both loved to do races, and we loved each other. So why not spend the time? And I did go ahead and make a commitment to come back and visit everybody about every 3 months. So we were, going back and seeing her family, seeing my family just about every 3 months. We would take time and do that. So during that period of time, and also me writing, they were able to follow up along with
Mm.
us as to where we were and what we were doing or what we just did. So I had a lot of pictures and stories to share when we got back. So overall, I think everybody realized that it was a very good decision for us.
But and to your point, like you are already used to this endurance life, this traveling life. So it wasn't like you were introducing a whole new way of life for Catherine and yourself. But I imagine like I've never met anybody who's had a nomad kind of caregiving life. What does that look like? Like, what does that look like for you as the primary caregiver? What additional responsibilities, what preparations did you have to take?
Well, what I tried to do is through my research, I found that some of the things that are beneficial for folks with Alzheimer's was the fact that you needed to have exercise as part of your program. You needed to socialize as part of your program. You needed to see new and exciting things that would go into a part of your brain that would last a little bit longer than just a short-term memory. And so what we did was a lot of our trips were group trips. We would meet up with folks, 50, 100 of us. We would tour the cities that we were visiting. We would do the race. We would have dinners together. So we had all that socialization. We would do some cruises and we got to know people. And then as we would travel around, we would run into them again. And then they became our support as we moved forward. A lot of the group coordinators knew of our situation and were there to help. The other thing that I realized is that the travel industry is there to help all types of disabilities. They're trained in that area. And when they see us coming and they understand the situation, they bend over backwards to help us. So it
Give
was
us an
not
example
anything.
of that. Because I know sometimes I hear the opposite, that they're rough on the wheelchairs and some of the equipment and, they're making strides. But what is a way that you saw the travel agencies and industry really help you?
Well, I'll give you one example. We were going to St. Kitts and we were going to be spending about 6 weeks there. So I was taking quite a bit of stuff with us. Usually we're just two bags and two backpacks. And also Catherine was struggling at the time. And I have what is known as the Catmobile, which is an adult-sized stroller, which I still can run. She can't, so I put her in that and run, and then she gets out and walks some, and then we go back and do that. So I have all this equipment. I show up at curbside, and the Delta guy looks at me, and he could right away, tell that I needed help. He gets on his, walkie-talkie also wheelchair. He takes my bags. We go to the front of the line. He takes the stroller to the oversized, and then the lady shows up and wheels us right through. The gate agent, made sure that we had plenty of time to get our seats, brought some snacks out and made sure that, she was
Nice.
settled in. And I have not seen the other side that you're talking about. But at the same
Okay.
time, I'm used to being in that environment. So maybe that is because of that fact that I know how to transverse it. Like, for example, TSA. Some of the TSA agents, we were traveling every 3 to 4 days. So they got to know us as we were coming through the line. They would make sure that we didn't have to queue up and go through. So we had plenty of examples like that where people
Well,
would
good.
over
I hope that
backwards and
gives
help them.
people the confidence and hope to really try. And I've seen where they're doing a lot with the seats on some of the airlines, and do give you the extra time. I'd love to find out more about that Catmobile while you're sending us the link for meditation. If that's something that people could get, because I think
Absolutely.
getting outside and while their mobility changes, that give you freedom
Right.
to really keep doing what you're doing. So important. Well, I can tell, Tony, that you're kind of born with this can-do attitude, but many people unfortunately view dementia as some form of a death sentence.
Mhm.
And you clearly do not. You and Catherine have a thirst for joy. You're committed to infusing that and doing that. Did you always feel that way?
Well, I want to go all the way back to my 37 years of flying airplanes. And as a pilot, you're going to get the airplane to destination safely. There's no other choice in the matter. So that is inbred in me to have a positive attitude of the outcome of whatever situation is. So as we all know, we're all going to die at some point in time. But um, I try to look at trying to have the best quality of life during the period of time that we have together. Now, you made a statement about a death sentence, and it's interesting because I commonly say that it's not a death sentence, it's a life lesson.
Yes.
You learn every single day something new. And if you take it upon yourself to research and to learn and to talk to others that are in similar situations, you'll find out a lot about what you can do to help your partner along the way. People talk about, well, you have to have routine. As soon as you make sure they have breakfast at the same time and they're, get up on the same side of the bed and all that. Well, it turned out that travel was our routine. On travel days, that was the best day for her because she knew she was going someplace new, it was going to see somebody new, and was going to do something different. So for us, and it became a joke because you're like, where's the bathroom? Well, it's someplace different. Yes, that is a true statement, but she knows that it's going to be someplace different. It's not going to be the same place. And right now I have to help her. So it doesn't really make any difference at all. It really
Yeah.
doesn't.
When during the pandemic, did your life have a different twist?
Well, we had a couple of different situations happen during the pandemic. We came off a cruise in St. Martin. We went over to St. Kitts, which was an island that we had visited many times. We were going to be there for 2 weeks, and then the pandemic hit,
Mm.
and they closed the island. Folks sat there, nobody coming in, nobody going out. And we were stuck there for a month. So it was just me, Catherine, looking at the two of us. And unfortunately, that was right about the same time she started having some delusions. So I was really faced with a lot of problems at that point. The isolation, she was used to being around people, all the restaurants were closed, it's just the two of us in a condo. So I said, we got to get out of here. And me and about 20 other folks chartered an airplane, got off the island. I thought going back to her family in Indiana would be the best thing for us to do. But when we got back, it was like, oh no, you've been traveling, you can't be anywhere near us. So we quarantined for 2 weeks, and they said, no, that's not good enough. We quarantined for a month. He did come out of the delusions. That was a phase that she went through, and came out of that. And then I looked at it and I said, you know, airfares are really cheap. There's nobody on the airplanes. Hotels are really cheap. There's nobody in the hotels. So we might as well just go back and get back on the road. So we only stayed off the road for about a month, and we went back on the road. And actually, for those 2 years during that period of time, was probably the cheapest of our travel experience.
Yes.
Rental cars were dirt cheap, hotels were empty, and we worked around it. We said, okay, we like to run, so we just got out of the hotel and went for a run outside. There's nobody out there, everything's fine. We did Grubhub, delivery of our food. We walked the halls of the hotel, to get our exercise in. We worked around it. And since I was a pilot for so long, I knew that I was feel pretty safe on the airplane itself. We did wear masks at first. We got our vaccines, right away. But I
Yeah.
felt, rather comfortable being in the airplane the way the filtration worked. So
So much resiliency, Tony. And you've mentioned so many different self-care strategies and the categories, intellectual self-care, social self-care, physical self-care, obviously. So many different strategies that you have infused into your life. It's remarkable, frankly.
oh, thank you very
I
much.
love your story. Now you're 30 minutes from me. So I'm in Marietta, Georgia. I found out you're in Roswell. I said, where are you today? You said Roswell, Georgia, and started
Right.
to explain it to me. And I was like, oh no, I know Roswell. I was married in Roswell
Yeah.
27 years ago. And I went to North Springs High School, which is in Sandy Springs,
Thanks. Right.
and grew up in the Dunwoody area. So you're in my turf, Tony.
Okay.
So
Yep.
what brings you to Roswell? Why are you here? Like, how are you and Catherine? What are you up to, like, in current life?
Well, this is a great story because as she progressed, we had to start looking at can we continue doing our international nomad lifestyle? And it became more difficult last year in October, and then a year ago, January, we did make 2 more trips overseas. But then I realized that it was going to be too difficult for her. Unfortunately for her, too, April of last year, she started having seizures, which is about 25% of the subset of the groups that have Alzheimer's do also don't have to have, but have seizures. So that became a complication. So I said, well, let's look at what the alternatives are. And as you know, and I'll, talk to your listeners about, we have what is, the 3 tiers of care if you're out looking for it, and independent living, assisted living, and then memory care. And for folks with Alzheimer's, that's normally where folks end up in a memory care facility. The spouse lives somewhere nearby. Maybe they live in the assisted living in the adjacent building, and they come visit. And when we were looking around for a facility, it turned out that most folks were saying, oh, okay, let me show you your memory care. And I'm like, no, we're going to be together. This is, something, I'm only 67 years old. I do everything for her. I need an environment where she'll be safe. I need an environment where I can get some extra help, but I don't need an environment where, we're 24/7 type of care.
Yeah.
So
What a
I,
gift
I,
you are for the staff.
yes,
Tony, I
that's a
wish more
true
people would
statement.
do that. It's like, you have this consistency. She knows you. You have your
Right.
systems of how you, like, hopefully you found the place for you that works for you both.
Yes, and what we did was we took about 3 months to look into this. What you'll see is that a lot of people live near a relative when they go into this type of situation. So I have a daughter here in Atlanta. I have a son in Virginia, and I have another son in San Diego. She has a daughter in Bloomington, Indiana. So I basically went through the process of looking for facilities in those places, and it turned out that the Atlanta area downtown was not, and I started looking out to the north, and I found this facility called Brookdale Senior Living Solutions. It's a unusual building here, complex as I call it, because it had everything that I needed. It's back off from the major streets. It has a half-mile walk path around the facility, which is greened and manicured and beautiful flowers and pool and, rec area and exercise room. And then there's about 300 people under the roof. So there's 3 levels. It is huge, complex, and it has about 2 miles of carpeted corridors indoors.
Wow.
So we can walk out the door and just walk around. Got pictures on the walls. We got chairs to take a rest. We got flowers in the corridors. You got people coming and going that she can get hugs from. So it just turned out to be a perfect situation. I did have to convince the folks here, though, I will say that we could live independently. Of course, their first thoughts were, we're going to put Catherine into memory care. You can stay independent. And I didn't see the need to, first of all, just from the cost,
Yes.
$8,000 for memory care, another $3,000 for the independent living, whereas we can live together.
Yes.
The other thing is a lot of facilities, what they do is they have in-house care. So you could pay by the hour to have somebody come in and help out. And as you know, and I'll make sure your listeners understand, you do need to take care of yourself as a caregiver. And so what I did was I reached out, and I have a number of folks that come in a couple hours a day. And that was a kind of funny situation, because as I was interviewing them, I said, you're going to be walking 2 miles an hour for 4 hours. Catherine's going to take a break for a few minutes, take some, get some hydration in, but she's going to get back up and go back out walking. She can't run anymore, but still, she's an endurance athlete. And yes, she puts in 6 to 8 miles every single day.
Wow, that's her happy place. In her Batmobile or her walker? Or?
No, she walks, with the folks that come in,
oh, good.
And then with me also in the afternoon. And then when I want to go for a run, I'm still doing races, 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons, and we did one the other day, and she had her feet sticking out on the side, and they were just going at it like she was running alongside, and she was cheering everybody on. And we had a little sign on her stroller, Team Cat, so people were calling out her name and
yes.
Also, yes,
you guys are like famous. You've got to be famous in the circles of the of the running world. It's fabulous. Absolutely. I love that you're in my neighborhood. You're motivating me. I thought my 5K, 10K, let's see, what have I done? A 3-day walk and some of the Marine Corps mud runs and stuff.
But great.
I'm more of a walker these days.
That's a very good exercise. I totally agree.
Yeah. But I miss the efficiency of running. Like it's just like so efficient.
Right.
Such a great story. And I'm glad that you were able, Tony, to really work with your assisted living community to find a solution that works for everybody. And it's, it just shows that you have to continue to be an advocate for your loved one, for yourself, because this is your life.
Right. And I encourage others that are, might be in a similar situation age-wise. I've talked to some folks that have had situations. They're a little bit older. A woman had her husband, he was a bit aggressive, so he couldn't handle him anymore. I understand those type of situations. But,
sure,
if there's folks out there and are looking for what am I going to do next, maybe they're living at home and, we get 2 meals a day. The food is really good. The people here, they got activities all day long. Catherine was out dancing yesterday. And so, this is something to look for, and also push the envelope, just like I did, in terms of travel. This is another envelope to push in terms of changing the norm of, okay, your spouse is going to go here, and you're going to go there. No, you can be together, and you can be, I've talked to some others that have been in similar situations where they're still living in an independent situation with their loved one.
I mean, even finding a place for a couple is challenging, because I know I had went through that with my folks when my parents were still alive. We were moving them from Florida to the Atlanta area, and to find a place that was large enough for a couple was really limited at the time.
Right.
Maybe it's gotten better with some of the newer communities. We ended up, we had to pivot. My dad had passed while in Florida, and we had to just, focus on mom at that point.
Right.
But it's, I think I always wish it that my dad and my mom had moved into a place together,
Right.
because he clearly would have been the mayor of that
Right.
community and
Yep.
like known everybody's professional history
Yep.
and sharing the stories. And I imagine that you probably are the mayor of Brookdale.
Well, it's interesting because what I did was I gave out a number of books here. They have a library. Our book is in a library, and then they're passing it around. And we walk down the halls. Oh, I got the book from Sherry, and I'm reading it. Oh my goodness! And they go through the stories that I told during the book. So it's kind of interesting. And also,
Yes.
yeah, Catherine is very famous because as I tell everybody, this woman has run 83 marathons, a marathon in all 50 states, and has done all the majors. And there's probably only, I think there's it's only 4,000 women have done all that. So that's quite an accomplishment. Yes, she is where she is now, but she had a fulfilling life and still is enjoying life to the
And you're
fullest.
in my neck of the woods. Well, I have no doubt that someday our paths will be crossing. And it sounds like you have really accepted. It had to have been hard for you to also be grounded, or do you find that you are still able to travel and get some respite?
Yes, we still travel about every other week. We will go somewhere local, Beaufort. We were over in Cummings, Gainesville the other day. We still go visit her folks every 3 months. So we'll go back to the Indiana area. I got it. My son just moved to Cincinnati. So in July, we're going to go up there and see him. And I have to travel. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
if I gotta, strap her into a wheelchair, we're still going to be on the road and as long as we can. So that's the
Yeah,
way it
it's
works.
essential for your spirit and your
Right.
self-care. Uh, and is there, back to all these countries and all these things, like, is there like a certain memory that sticks out for you?
Well, yes, there is. We started our international marathoning back in 2010. We went to Athens, Greece, and it turned out that in 490 BC, Philippides ran from Marathon to Athens, and that's the mileage between the two, which is 26.2 miles. And
Who knew?
that's
Yeah.
how the marathon mileage and the whole thing started. So we started back at 490 BC, and now is 2010. So 2,500 years later, they're putting together the Athens Marathon. So every single country was represented. Everybody was dressed up. It was a really big deal, and we were out there doing our marathon thing. And about that time, we were starting to slow down. So it was going to be one of those times where we were the first time we might be over 5 hours doing a marathon. And Catherine's very competitive. Even today, she sees somebody walk by her, she'll speed up to keep up with them. And I told her that. I said, if we don't speed up, it's going to be over 5 hours. Oh no! So she started speeding up. I started speeding up. So we crossed the finish line, and one of the things we do is we cross hand in hand. Even if she's in a stroller, I'm holding her hand, and that's been one of the things that we've always done. So we're hand in hand going across the finish line, and we're in the Coliseum, famous Coliseum, and everybody's cheering us on. There's a picture taken of us, and overhead it's 4 hours and 49 minutes and some change, and she's completely airborne, and she's slightly behind me, and it looks like I'm pulling a rag doll across the finish line because I'm over a foot taller than she is. So it is the
You didn't want to
iconic.
face the wrath of if you
Right.
hit over
Oh yeah,
five
yeah,
hours.
right, right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Oh,
So
too cute.
yeah, so we had a great time, and then we got the bug of international. So that was where it really got, every time we were like, okay, let's go to Paris, let's go to London, let's go to Stockholm, let's go, I could just, nail them off of all the different places that we went, we ran. And, you know, like I said, it was mostly groups. So it was a couple of different groups that we used, and the people knew us and, you know, have been really supportive of us over the years. So she
What are
started
some of the
getting,
groups that you use? Like, are there any that if
yes,
someone's listening and they were like, oh,
yes,
I'd like to do that?
absolutely. Marathon Tours and Travel. They're in Boston area. They've been in business forever. Really nice group of folks, and they do uh, tours. They'll set you up for the marathon. They'll get you a race entry. We just went back with them in October to go back to Berlin. Short story about that. I had my open heart surgery in June. I had a race in September in Berlin, and my doctor said, we can make this happen. So my
Wow.
surgeon opened me up, replaced the valve, closed me back up, and 3 months later, I was in Berlin doing the marathon there. So we went back uh, and had a little, we didn't do the marathon. We just went back with the group. And then there's another one called Marathon Expeditions. And what they do is they go somewhere and they're not looking at doing a whole marathon, but we were just with them last January in Costa Rica, and they'll put on small races. They'll get the locals to get out and chart a course for a 5K or a 10K, and then they'll do some touring and all,
Sounds
and get
like
to
my
see.
kind of
Yeah,
speed.
there you go. It
Yeah.
is perfect. And so we do that, and we have another trip scheduled with them, God willing, in January to go to Aruba, which is one of our favorite places. We went there with them to Aruba. We did it with a cruise ship, got off the cruise. They picked us up on buses. They had a police, escort to the start of the race. It was bent over backwards, over the top. So those are the
I
two
love
groups
it.
that we usually use.
Yes, the travel bug is a real thing. Like my
Yes.
kids were in high school. I backpacked after college at Penn State. I went to 13 countries within 9 weeks with two girlfriends, long before internet and cell phones
Wow.
and all of that. So, one of the proudest accomplishments. Um, but I wanted my kids to kind of have that same kind of thing. So when
Right.
they got old enough that they really didn't need anything for holidays, we started doing
Yes.
trips as the four of
Perfect.
us and families. And we've had a blast, really
Absolutely.
just, and it has instilled in them the travel bug. My daughter graduated from college. She did the backpacking thing much differently, where you can book hostels in advance and
Right.
all of
Right.
this. But
Right.
I think it's such to get out of our own places and really experience some other things. And group events are a nice way for people to really get a taste of that. One of the things that we've used as a family is, and I'll link to this in the show notes, is Travel Zoo. ZOO,
Okay.
travelzoo.com has different packages of events. And so we've gone to, 10-day trip in Italy, where we've gone to Rome,
Right.
Florence, and Venice, and they take care of all the connections. We've done Barcelona and Paris. We've done an Ireland trip. So um yeah, we're a travel family,
Yep.
and we're itching to go somewhere.
Right.
Nowhere international this year. We're going to San Diego
Okay.
in
Yeah.
August. I've never been, my kids have never been, my husband has been, so
Yeah.
we're
My son lives in San Diego. We go visit him quite often, and we love it out there. So you're gonna have a
yeah,
great time.
share any of your tips with us.
Yeah.
We're excited to kind of do that in August, but then next year we're definitely like, we need to get out of this
Right.
country.
Right.
Yeah, we're itching
Yeah.
hard. So you mentioned your book briefly, Running All Over the World: Our Race Against Early Onset Alzheimer's. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. I know people are going to want to learn more about your story. Has anyone offered to do a documentary of y'all?
It's an interesting story, and I'm going to send you the link, and you can put that in your show notes. I actually
Okay.
have a 15 minutes professionally done video of Catherine and I doing the Mesa, Arizona 10K. And what ended up happening is, I'm not going to mention the outlet, but they were looking at doing a series on couples facing tough situations. Unfortunately, they did ours, edited it, had it ready, and then the other ones didn't work out quite well, so they decided not to do it. But they gave it to me, and
Nice.
yeah, it is.
Yes, I would love to see it and
Now I
share
will
it.
say this: you got to have some tissues because every time I watch it, I start crying. And it's very touching. They did a fabulous job. But yeah,
Listen,
I'll
sometimes
give
we
it.
need a good cry, Tony. Like a
Yes, you
good
do.
cathartic cry
Yep,
is,
yep.
I leak often on this when I'm interviewing folks because we're
Right.
human.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely, absolutely.
that's so great.
I'm going to mention one other thing
Yes.
for your folks that they might want to think about. And I found out about this is this item called a Fire Stick. Some folks might know about it. You plug it into your TV, and through Amazon, you can download your pictures. So every morning while we're having breakfast, I have some music playing, which, as you all know, music is very good therapeutic for folks at this stage. And I have our pictures. I could tell it to show pictures of 2014. I could tell it to picture, current pictures. And, she doesn't sit there and stare at it, but, every so often she'll look at a picture and she'll see it and she'll smile
Comforting.
and
It
have
makes her
some,
feel like she's
right,
still
right,
traveling and doing
right,
these
right.
things when you all are back at home
Yep,
base. Well, I will definitely share that. That was a great gift idea too.
yep,
Is
yep.
we're always looking for different things. I want to switch gears, and we've been talking about self-care really the whole
Okay.
time, but and you've talked about how you've gotten breaks. I did have a question. Is your book also part of the Alls authors community?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we have
Yes,
that in
absolutely.
common.
Yeah,
Um,
those folks are fabulous. I worked with them for quite a while to get them to look at my book. They were like, "Oh, you're just running, you're just traveling," and I said, "Yeah, but if you really take a good look at it, you'll see the gems that are in there about how beneficial. I say travel is our medicine, and they came on board and they've been very very supportive of us, and I really enjoy those ladies. They do a fabulous
yes.
job. I actually put a collection of books that they had selected, and it's in our library here
I love
of books.
that.
Yeah, yeah, it works
Well,
out really good.
and I'm not the traditional alls author either because I've got this journal. And it was written with caregivers in mind. It's a prompted journal because journaling was such a big part of my healing as a caregiver, and
Yes,
people can be overwhelmed by writing. And I don't
yes,
know, did you likely found writing to be therapeutic or you wouldn't have?
yes. It's journaling,
It's journaling,
and I
yeah.
just turned it into a book, so it was the same thing, and it was very, very, therapeutic for me. And I still write. I
Yes.
still write to my blog. I just produced one just the other day called "If I Get Dementia," and it was one talking about what you should do for your loved one when if and when they get dementia. And then I was adding to it, my personal experience and what I would do, what I would want someone to do if I got
What would you
dementia.
want someone to do? I'm curious.
Oh, it's very long. It's but I will
I'll
pull out.
find it and link to it.
I'll pull out some gems, which are play some music for me. Make sure I have some nourishing snacks nearby. Leave out things that I can move around that won't get broken and you won't worry about. That I can play with, and then I'll put them back for you. And things like that. Make sure I get plenty of sleep. Uh, don't give me a bunch of drugs. Try to find supplements that'll help me and all, and be there for me. And also take care of yourself as your caregiver. Take care of
Yeah.
yourself because then you can take care of me better by being rested and all. So like for example, this morning, 9 o'clock, someone showed up. I went up for a run. They're out walking the halls or outside, and I'm talking to you, and then they'll leave at noon, and I'll
You'll
pick
be
up the
back on
rest of.
duty.
Yep, I'll be
Yeah.
back on. We'll do it. I had a tag team yesterday, so it works out good. And she loves the people. They come in, she gives them a big hug, and they go out and laugh and play music and talk and walk and whatever.
It's a
And
win-win-win. I think
yes,
it's like it
absolutely.
gives people a chance to be compassionate and be the caregiver, whether it's family or hired. It gives you a break, and it gives Catherine a change of scenery and pace.
Right.
And if someone's listening and really reluctant to getting in home care, I always think like my mom was probably sick of us. She probably
Right.
wanted,
Yes.
someone else to, and someone else to share her stories with. And it's it's definitely
That's
powerful.
kind
I
of,
know sometimes it can be hard though to have a
yeah,
stranger coming into your space. One of the
right.
tips that I give folks, Tony, is to like get them maybe first to come in and help with laundry or cooking or something
Uh-huh.
that's less personal to kind of get the
Right. I
person
see. Right, right. Used
acclimated
to,
to
right.
it. Yes,
But
if
for
they're
Catherine,
reluctant.
she's used to having people around. So that was
Yes.
not a problem with her. She's used to having
You know
folks
your
with her.
person.
Right,
You're
right,
the
right,
expert in
right,
Catherine's
right,
care and in what you need also. Uh, so let's go. I'm going to do a lightning round with you of
okay.
the self-care journal. So we're going to pick out some prompts. And what are two of your go-to healthy snacks?
Oh, and we put them together at about 8:30 every night. Sliced apples and peanut butter.
Yum. What kind of app? What's your apple of choice?
Oh, it's interesting because every time I go in, I pick a different one, and it's just like a surprise for us. I
Yeah.
think that I just went to the store yesterday, and it was Granny apples was what I picked. But
Granny Smith. Yes.
yep. I just
We're
go
in good
in.
apple country here. When it
Yes.
turns September, you and Catherine can
Right.
go check out the apple orchards in North
Right.
Georgia. Are a lot of fun. Apple butter, apple
Right.
pies,
Yep.
yummy,
Yep.
yummy, yummy. Those aren't healthy snacks, though, by the way.
Yep.
Um, let's see. Where do you find your inspiration to be healthy?
It's weird because as soon as you said that, I started to tear up. And I don't know why that hit a note, as strong as it did. But, well, actually, I do know because I have to be here for her.
Yeah,
And this is not, we've been at this for 10 years, and the average is 8 years. And, people can survive for 20 years.
yeah.
I'm 67 years old, so I gotta make it to 77, 80 years old. So I have to take care of myself so I can be there for her. That's how I look at it. That's my inspiration.
Yes. When you were talking there, and of course you've got me choked up because one of the things, if I see someone choked up, then oh, I'm the same. But the whole phrase, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It really has special meaning in your case.
I'm
Uh,
laughing out loud because that's my next blog entry I'm
oh,
working on
good.
right now called "It's a Marathon, Not a Sprint." But in actuality, in the body of it, I'm going to explain to people it's actually a triathlon. A triathlon has swimming, then you have to transition to the bike, and then you transition when you're all beat up and done, then you got to run 26.2 miles. And that's how where we are right now. We're in the running portion of it. And she's in stage 6 right now, as pretty much I have to do everything for her. Luckily, we're still mobile. But I feed her, change her, do everything
Yeah.
else for her. So my legs are tired. She's
You're
tired.
weary.
We're weary. It's late in the day. We've been at this all for a long time, and we're still trying to get to the finish line and get the medal. So that's how. But it's so funny that you said that.
Yeah, we were
That's
on
the
the
next one I'm working on.
same
Yeah.
wavelength today, but
Yep.
when you're saying that, like I have this visual that used to come to me when I was feeling this way as, the caregiving, taking care of kids and working full time and caring for my mom
Yeah.
and all
You're
of
the
that. I would
sandwich.
Sandwich, yes, I would
Yeah.
call it a Rocky corner moment was kind of what I called it, where the Rocky Balboa movies, he's all beat up and battered, and the
Right.
coach is like massaging the shoulders and squirting the water in, and they're like, "You got this, Rocky. You can
Yeah.
go out and
Yeah.
do this." So I feel like you're in your Rocky
Yeah.
corner moments right now,
Right.
Tony.
Right. Yeah, you actually statistically you're in the toughest spot, being in the middle of all that because you know, surprisingly enough, there's a lot of cases where the caregiver does not survive
That's
the
right.
person they're caring for, and that's because they just put on too much and don't realize
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I think honestly, that's what happened to my dad. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
dad was my mom's caregiver.
Right.
And he also, I have a brother that is neurodivergent. So was born with a developmental and intellectual disability. So my dad had everything, right? He had the
Right.
home, he had the mom, he had
Wow.
so, and we were 6 hours away, which is why it's so nice to be, to still have that family support somewhat nearby. And we
Right.
tried for years, Tony, to get them to move back to the Atlanta area. And then my dad was the stronger of the two, like health wise, like none of them were
Right.
healthy. Nobody was healthy, but it was, if I was a betting person, I would have bet on my dad,
Yeah.
outliving my mom.
Right.
And that was not the case. So, and then we were in kind of the worst case scenario, frankly. But it makes us who we are. Here
Yep.
we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, okay, one more thing. Let's see. Here's a good one. Let's finish on this one. What's a life lesson that you believe needs to be taught in school?
So I live by, and I got this from my mother, the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. I say this to people like, oh, well, you don't know what the other person wants. They might not want that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Right? But I'm at least going to try to do unto others. And it is proven to be so beneficial to me. Right off the bat, people can tell this guy is really going to have, be looking after me, be thinking about me, be thinking about, what he can do for me. And so I can't turn him down. If I come back and ask, absolutely, what do you need? And so it works out really great. And the other one my mother gave to me when she was in a facility, and I took care of her for 9 years, which was I would go visit. She would say, "So what did you do for somebody today?"
You
I've
said
done,
it like your mom would say it
right, right,
too.
right, right. I've
Yeah.
done this for Marjorie, and I've done this for Carrie, whatever. And so it is so cool being here. I'm the youngster here. It's hilarious,
Oh, yeah.
but also is very inspirational to me because I'm seeing these folks in their 80s and 90s, and there's a lady right down the hall, 102 years old, that's still doing everything but her laundry. She has somebody come in and do that. But the thing is that I have plenty of opportunities to do something for someone else every single day. So that's something. Those two things should be taught in school. What did try to figure out what you could do for somebody else. Open up the door, pick up their bag, help them figure out something. They're, too short, get something off the top shelf.
Yeah.
Anything
Text them and
little.
say hello. I'm thinking of
Yes,
you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Those are fabulous. Anything else, Tony, before we wrap up our call that, parting words of wisdom for caregivers? And I'm going to put all the links of how people stay in touch with you. We'll put runningwithcat.com as your blog. I've got your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter that I'll also link to. And of course, your link to your book. But how do you want to wrap us up today?
What I would like to stress more than anything else is the fact that everybody's journey is going to be unique. I gave you some stats on, how long and whatever, but we don't know. I took the tack of spending as much time with Catherine as possible. Instead of me going out and continuing working, I was in a position where I didn't have to do that. But, don't go off and have her play bridge and then you go play golf. Find something that you enjoy doing together and do it. And do it as long as you feasibly can. And you will enrich both your lives throughout. So that's what I want to leave all your listeners.
Definitely noted in my book. You have been a pleasure to talk to. What you can tell your mama up in heaven that what you did for someone is you touched a lot of lives today.
Yes, I have a tagline, which I know is really weird. I try to inspire others. This is a long hill, so I expire to inspire till I expire.
I love that. Thank you, Tony.
You're quite welcome.
I hope our paths cross. We're going to have to make a date, I
Absolutely,
think.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
I love that. Thank you
Okay.
so much for blessing us with your story and your wisdom and the tips and your authentic voice. I'm very appreciative of our time together today.
I'm glad we were able to connect. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.